All right, we are back once again to the North American Star League in our sort of point-by-point roundtable of sorts round set discussion. We're joined on the set by Letad of Team Root and by Total Biscuit, the cynical Brit himself. Thank you guys for coming out and joining us. We're going to talk briefly to WCS, and then we're going to try to touch on Heart of the Swarm just a little bit before we jump into tonight's games. WCS European Finals, Stefano wins again. And I think we can officially say that he's no longer a human being because 40 hours of travel from the United States to Sweden, lost his luggage, lost his gear, playing on borrowed equipment. The only people that he dropped single maps to were the second and third place finishers.
The Moreno brothers.
That's right.
So you either need to be something very special from Spain or just...
Or it's just not happening. How is it freaking possible, man? There was a point when I was reading about how awful Stefano's travel was that I was like, okay, I have got to put money on Hasu Ops because that's a free win, right? That's free money. And then Stefano 2-0s him, and I'm just like, what the hell? How does it happen? Somebody give me something like. Seriously.
It was so funny because I was logged on my Facebook, or I was on my computer and I saw Ben logged his Facebook account, and I see a message pop out of nowhere where he's messaging Kevin. So I'm like spying on his account. He says, "Kevin, quick, what's your Pinnacle account? I gotta put a lot of money on Hasselhoff." And then Kevin doesn't respond for like 2 hours. Like, well, I guess that was a good idea not to.
Yeah, if Kevin had responded, that would have been out.
No, yeah, I woke up the next morning because I watched a little bit and then I went to bed. And I woke up and I see I see Stefano in round 3 already. I'm just shaking my hand like, how is this possible? He arrived 2 hours before the event starts. It's just unreal. Then I checked Facebook, and for the first time in like 9 months, Ben actually wrote me. Like it went like 8 messages from me and then 1 from Ben. I'm kind of like the guy who has a crush on a girl who ignores him. That's me and Ben, so you guys just know that. So we got that figured out. And the only message I see is like, hey, what's your Pinnacle esports account? I want to put a lot of money on Hazu. And I look at the grid, I was like, well, Ben, I guess you could be happy I wasn't asleep.
John, what were your thoughts on Stefano's play this weekend?
It was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. And just bear in mind that this is the guy that claims over and over and over again that Zerg versus Zerg is his weakest matchup. And then his control is absolutely astonishing in the final games there against Vortex. And yeah, okay, he drops a set, fair enough. But the second set was 2-0, and it really didn't even look close. This is a guy that lost the hatch in his main and then came back to win in the main. You know, we get the remark from Artosis, oh, he's expanding to his main. It's like, I'm sorry, Dan, is that right? No, we heard that correctly. It's really hard to explain why he is as good as he is. He refuses to even explain it himself. No one seems to know, so it's hard to speculate, but there's no question, and that's a dominant performance that he put on there. Really, really good, and he didn't have an easy ride there either. If you look at the bracket, and 2-0 Hazelwobs is no mean feat to start with, then deals with Daysheep, goes 2-0 against Lowerly in another Zerg versus Zerg, and then takes down Lucifron, and that series was incredible. It really was. Lucifron, I think, poured everything he had into that matchup. There was so few mistakes from him, and yet he still can't beat him. So what do you do against that?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up the control that we saw to Stefano, because I was watching his EVZ final against Vortex, and I was just floored at the micro that we were seeing. And I want to kick this to Rotterdam and Todd, because you guys come from that Warcraft 3 background, and Warcraft 3 was a game of micro. It was all about your control. So talk to me, guys, about Stefano's control and how hard it is to be proficient, and just the difference between a guy that plays at his level and a guy that plays, you know, at a GM level, but not at a Stefano level.
I think in Warcraft, when you were behind and you knew you had a better micro than your opponent, like you had this thought in the back of your head, like you knew you could come back just by outplaying the guy micro-wise, find better positions to fight in, and just micro better. And in one of the games from Stefano against Vortex, that's what happened. I think it was the Entombed game in the last series. Like I was watching, and I was like, Stefano's probably dead. Then I watched a little bit more, and he just completely turns it around with like perfect micro. So that's kind of what happened. Like he had this Warcraft mindset where I was thinking, I can just outplay this guy. I think that's what he even said in the interview, like I crush him or something. So yeah.
Those were his words after the game. Just before you jump in, Kev.
I don't really have much to add at all. It's just as you said, it's literally outplaying your opponent. And microing in Warcraft 3, yes, Warcraft 3 was a very intensive micro game until the Blade Master came around. That kind of turned everything around. But before that, our units were a lot bigger. They were a lot easier to click, and they also respawned a little bit slower. And you micro, but you also think ahead in your mind of how this is going. StarCraft 2 is so incredibly quick. Certainly ZVZ links that just jump from left to right. So the mindset that you had in Warcraft 3 micro battles is not very similar to a ZVZ. But somehow just trading Banelings with Zerglings effectively all the time, I was blown away just as much as you guys. I have nothing else to add.
What Stefano said in that press conference afterwards was that the first time he played against Vortex was actually prior to the final. And Stefano revealed his secret strategies, and he won that series. And the second time, he said Vortex revealed his secret strategies and was able to win that one. And then they played that final best of 3. And at that point, Stefano said there were no more secrets. Everything was out, so it just came down to who could outplay who. And that's when he knew he could win. And I thought that was a really confident and bold statement to make.
Yeah, he only says confident things, though.
That's another really good point. Another one of the huge stories coming out of WCS this weekend is the Moreno brothers, the Spanish Armada. These two kids coming out of Spain, WCS Spain first and second place finishers. They are the WCS Europe second and third place finishers. Unbelievable. What is in the water over there in Spain, man? What are these guys drinking?
You know, and I find this kind of ironic as well. Sorry to cut you off, guys. You can go right after this. But so there are 3 Moreno brothers. This is not something that many people know. Now, one of them plays Zerg, without a doubt one of the best in Europe. The other one is Terran. He's also very good. And now we know what went wrong with the other Moreno brother. It's unfortunate, but true.
I remember Kevin and Ben keep telling me how good Lucifron is. Lucifron. But of course, and Andre was teammates with Lucifron back on Fnatic, and it was just I'd always known Lucifron was good, but to see Vortex to come out and show up this weekend and just show that he's been playing good Zerg even since the summer, because he's been one of these summer Zergs that really come out of nowhere. It was kind of a pleasure to watch, and I think it was really cool to see brothers really compete and still be such good sportsmen about it.
You know, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. When you guys first came over and you were like, Lucifron is the best person in the world right now. You're like, he's one of the best Terrans, hands down. I didn't take you guys seriously because when I was on the same team as him, I was very uninspired by his play. You know, we would the team would kind of like try to get strategies from each other and obviously talk about stuff. He didn't really talk with us. He didn't really show great games. He lost to Action Jesus, so I didn't know how to characterize him too well, you know. But that being said, this last series of him against Stefano. First off, I don't know how you can lose a series by killing 300 drones across 3 games. On top of that, I don't know how you can not mess up so much in a single game. Like, everything that he did on that game on Cloud Kingdom was perfect. I would have altered maybe 2 things in a perfect world. That's it, though. And he still lost. I don't know. Everything was amazing to him. I thought his macro was on point. Constant harass with Banshees, which is actually ridiculously hard to do, to track down those infestors and then continuously cloak just 1 or 2 and then try to really spend all that infestor energy. So hard to do. He's out of this world, and I feel like him and his brother are the 3 people that are only, Stefano, Vortex, and Lucifron are the only 3 foreigners, I think, that are outclassing every single foreigner in the world. Do you disagree?
Yeah, I think then you're giving a little bit too less credit to Nurcho. This might have not been Nurcho's best tournament, but what he has shown us over the course of the last few months.
Yeah. But I feel like those 3, like, they are able to play the game without actually worrying about execution, which I think the majority of foreigners are still working on execution. Those 3 actually can play chess and not have to worry about the execution.
Yeah.
Their moves are already, set in their muscles.
Let's kick a little conspiracy theory around just to see what people have to say. Lucifron Vortex brothers, ZVZ known to be Stefano's weakest matchup. Lucifron and Vortex had to play against each other to determine who goes to the final. What are the chances that Lucifron let his brother win?
I'm pretty sure they really want to try to beat each other whenever they play each other, even though they're like brothers and they will talk strategy and everything. Even when you're teammates, usually, if you have to play a teammate in the finals, you will always play your best. I think it's like that. Yeah. They tried so hard during the entire tournament. They play each other in one of the final matches. I'm pretty sure they were trying their very best.
I would really like to ask Andre right now, because he plays both Terran and Zerg on a very high level. Who does it benefit more if you know each other extremely well? Like, obviously they are brothers, they must share a lot of strategies. So Vortex knows the TVZ of Lucifron so incredibly well, and Lucifron knows the ZVT from his brother really well. Who do you think that favors more?
It's going to favor Zerg a lot more, because I think their ability to actually change drastically is going to be, well, it's there. Right, like by him knowing exactly the Terran timings, he's able to actually prioritize drones just a little bit there, and it gives him those slight advantages. And then when it comes to the main fights, you just have that extra like 20 Zerglings or that extra inject worth of units or 2 injects worth of units. And I think that's where it matters the most. Terran, don't get me wrong, they have the capabilities of doing that, but they have to change their production capabilities completely. So, you know, you're going to see 2 starports rather than 1 starport, or their build is showcased. Rather, Zergs, they can make that Spire, but they can continue droning directly after that.
Then I guess it's all legit, Ben.
I mean, obviously, both those guys played an amazing, immaculate tournament. Just to be clear, I don't think there was any match fixing at all. I think that was straight up all the way through. They both had very difficult runs to get to where they got, and I thought the final was impeccable. I thought the semifinals were impeccable. I thought every game of WCS that I watched was just top notch. I also want to give a little bit of a nod to Grubby, who played some of the best StarCraft I've seen from him in just forever. John, what did you think of Grubby's play this weekend?
It was, for Grubby anyway, I'd say that was iconic play, and that set a new standard of what he's capable of doing. We've known for a while that he's good, but he played so incredibly hard in those games against Nurcio. It just completely blew me away. You could clearly see on his face as he walked out of the booth. He knew that was an incredibly tough match. Anyone that plays against Nurcio knows it's an incredibly tough match. But he played his heart out, and some of the best games of the weekend came from him. So I don't think he has to be feeling down about any of it. I think he ended up being the crowd favorite, and it was obvious as soon as he walked on stage for the award ceremony that people really appreciated his play, even though he didn't win the tournament.
I just want to go on the record as saying I had Nurcio and Grubby as my picks for top 3 in this tournament. So I just want to point out that they eliminated each other.
Wow, man.
Just putting it out there.
You're so smart.
Just putting it out there.
You are so smart.
Yeah, that's also true. All right, guys, we're going to take a very, very short break. We're going to touch on Heart of the Swarm just a little bit when we get back, and then we'll be jumping into our games of the day. That is, of course, going to be not Stefano and Sin. That game got rescheduled, as did Night and Demaga. The games we will be seeing will be TT1 versus The Muslim and QXC versus MMA. That's coming up, and a lot more, so stick around.